What is inflation? The simple definition of inflation is when prices rise and the purchasing power of a currency drops. It means that you can buy less with your money than in the past. All economies experience inflation and deflation at some point. But where it gets troublesome is when the income levels of a population don't track with or exceed inflation. In that case, people become poorer, even if they think they are making more money. What causes inflation? There are different ways inflation can happen in an economy.
Rising demand for goods can cause the supply to go down, thus increasing prices. You can see this in a hot housing market where the number of people wanting to buy a home is larger than the number of homes on the market. Rising costs for things like labor and materials can result in the increase of prices. The relationship between the rising costs and workers' wage expectations also contribute to inflation. This is called the wage price spiral. Simply, it means that as prices go up, workers expect to be paid more, which in turn makes prices go up. A fourth way inflation can happen is when the government manipulates a money supply, like the US has done with quantitative easing after the last financial crisis, aka printing money. As a refresher, QE is when the Fed bolsters its balance sheet by buying treasuries to keep interest rates low. It's like if you or I were printing dollars to pay off our credit cards. What types of inflation are there? There are many types of inflation, but the main three are creeping, walking, and galloping or hyperinflation.
Creeping inflation is the normal, mild inflation most economies want and expect.
For instance, the Federal Reserve sets their policies hoping to target a 2% inflation rate. This is considered healthy for an economy, and theoretically employee wages can keep up with this.
Walking inflation is an acceleration of inflation in the 3 to 4% territory.
This starts to become harder for wages to keep up with and people begin to feel poorer. Hyperinflation is extreme inflation that can go as high as 20%, 100%, 200%, or even more. In the Weimar Republic, hyperinflation was so extreme that a loaf of bread in Berlin that cost around 160 marks at the end of 1922 cost 200 billion marks by late 1923.
The effect of inflation is to make people poorer.
Now, to some, inflation is bad news because they don't know how to use inflation to get richer. So, instead, inflation makes them poorer. For instance, employees are hurt by inflation because they can only sell their time, and time generally does not hedge against inflation well. Raises, if they come at all, generally come on an annual basis after inflation, not with it. Additionally, people who are deep in credit card debt or who have interest arm loans are hurt by inflation because the Fed generally raises interest rates to combat inflation. Much bad debt is based on adjustable interest rates that go up during times of inflation, making debt payments more expensive. Finally, people who play by the old rules of money are hurt by inflation because they believe it is wise and prudent to save money in the bank.
But the bank is smart, not dumb. And the bank plays by the new rules of money. They pay interest on money that doesn't keep up with inflation. Money loses purchasing power as the bank uses your money to make more money.
No matter where you turn, things look grim for the middle-class worker. But rather than focus on the negative, I want to share what my rich dad taught me about how to thrive in an economy with inflation.
How to profit from inflation.
My rich dad showed me how the rich make money during inflation, leverage, and hedging.
And I've been doing it ever since. I play the bank's game.
I borrow money from the bank at a fixed rate, buy a cash-flowing asset that covers the debt payment, and using less of my own money increases my return on investment. In an inflationary economy, if the debt payment is fixed, it becomes less of a cost as the dollar loses purchasing power and my investments and income grow. The reason my investments and income grow is because I purchase assets that hedge against inflation. For instance, in inflationary economies, rents generally rise. When I purchase investment property, the debt payment stays the same while my rents rise due to inflation.
This creates more cash flow. I owe the bank only the agreed payment.
The rising costs for rent flow straight into my pocket.
The same thing happens for businesses.
As the cost of goods rise for consumers, businesses can adjust their pricing and benefit from inflation. This works because business owners and investors aren't selling time. They're selling products that hedge against inflation in relatively real time.
They are in control.
Employees aren't in control of their product time, nor are they in control of their money, the bank or mutual fund is.
One other thing I do to hedge against inflation is invest in commodities.
Recently, that has been energy products like oil, a great investment when there is inflation.
Not great when there's deflation.
Therefore, while I believe they are good investments for me, they're not good investments for everyone, especially people who are still learning about the economy and investing who may not be able to react quickly to changing economic conditions.
Inflation is coming. Personally, I'm investing expecting inflation.
As I said, that means I'm dumping dollars and moving into commodities and precious metals. I'm also buying real estate with other people's money, locking in low interest rates and expecting inflation to pay off my debt with cheaper dollars. It's my belief that investing in assets that hedge against inflation is the best bet. I may be wrong, but I feel safer with this strategy than with the prevailing one: saving dollars and investing in stocks, bonds, and mutual funds.
As always, I'm not telling you how to invest. I'm simply telling you how I'm investing.
You must do the hard work of examining the facts and figuring out whether you think I'm right or wrong. At the end of the day, what I've been preaching all along, invest for cash flow, is the safest and soundest strategy that will serve you well in an inflationary economy. It's a sure way to grow richer.